In 2025, the world is witnessing a dangerous transformation. Global security is more fragile than ever before. Some nations have descended into chaos, where danger lurks around every corner, and the threat of violence, instability, and conflict is ever present. These countries are not just places of turmoil, they are ticking time bombs, capable of shaking the foundations of global peace. In this video, we'll explore the top 10 most dangerous countries of 2025, where life is a daily struggle and survival is a constant challenge. Are you ready to face the darkest corners of our world? Welcome to Cognitive Discovery, where today we take a deep dive into the geopolitical landscape of 2025, highlighting the nations that have become the epicenters of conflict, instability, and danger. From political corruption to violent extremism, we'll look at the countries whose circumstances could impact the world in ways we can only begin to imagine. These aren't just political statistics, they're real-life stories of suffering, power struggles, and the dark undercurrents of human history. Stay with us as we explore the top 10 most dangerous countries of 2025, uncovering the true threats that shape global security. Somalia. At number 10, we have Somalia, a country where lawlessness reigns, and terror is a daily reality. Decades of civil war have plunged Somalia into a state of anarchy, and it is one of the most dangerous places in the world. The terror group Al-Shabaab controls large swaths of the country, imposing an extremist interpretation of Islamic law and launching deadly attacks on civilians. The constant threat of violence and famine has made life unbearable for millions. Despite international efforts, Somalia's inability to restore peace and security continues to destabilize the Horn of Africa. In 2025, Somalia remains a hotbed for terrorism, piracy, and armed conflict. The violence is not just confined to the battlefields. Civilian casualties are a tragic daily occurrence. With a lack of functioning government institutions and an economy teetering on the brink, Somalia's perilous situation only intensifies global concerns about the spread of extremism. The world is watching closely, but for the Somali people, survival has become a cruel game of chance. Venezuela. At number 9, we have Venezuela, a country once rich in resources, now ravaged by corruption, political instability, and an economic collapse of biblical proportions. In 2025, Venezuela finds itself in the grips of a humanitarian crisis, with millions fleeing the country to escape violence and extreme poverty. The government's authoritarian rule under Nicolas Maduro has led to widespread repression, economic mismanagement, and a complete collapse of basic services. Protests are commonplace, and violent crackdowns have become routine. The country's oil industry, once a source of wealth, is now decimated, and inflation has skyrocketed, making the Venezuelan believer virtually worthless. As if that weren't enough, criminal gangs and militias control large portions of the country, leading to rampant violence, kidnappings, and extortion. Venezuela's crisis is not just a national tragedy, it's a regional one, creating a ripple effect of instability that threatens the security of neighboring countries. Yemen. At number 8, we have Yemen, a country caught in a devastating civil war that has pushed its people to the brink of extinction. In 2025, Yemen remains a battleground for the Houthi rebels and the Saudi-led coalition, with no clear end in sight. The war has left Yemen in ruins, its infrastructure shattered, and its economy non-existent. Over 200,000 people have died, and millions more are displaced, living in overcrowded refugee camps with no access to food, clean water, or healthcare. The conflict has become a proxy war, with regional powers fighting for influence, while Yemenis pay the ultimate price. Humanitarian aid organizations are struggling to provide relief in one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. The international community's failure to broker peace only exacerbates the suffering, making Yemen one of the most perilous places to live in 2025. Afghanistan. At number 7, we have Afghanistan, a country that has endured decades of war and instability. The Taliban's return to power in 2021 left the country in a precarious situation, with human rights abuses rampant, particularly for women and minorities. In 2025, Afghanistan remains under Taliban rule, where the strict enforcement of Sharia law and violent repression are the norm. The economy is in freefall, and the country's vast drug trade continues to thrive, fueling further violence and corruption. The international community's withdrawal has left Afghanistan to fend for itself, with little support to rebuild after decades of conflict. The Taliban's actions have created a volatile security environment, and terrorist groups like ISIS-K continue to operate within its borders, perpetuating a cycle of violence that is destabilizing the entire region. North Korea. At number 6, we have North Korea, a country whose regime is shrouded in secrecy and fear. Under the rule of Kim Jong-un, North Korea's isolationist policies and harsh dictatorship have kept the population under constant surveillance and control. In 2025, North Korea remains a global security threat due to its nuclear weapons program, which continues to provoke tension with neighboring South Korea, Japan, and the United States. The regime's human rights abuses are well documented, with political prisoners subjected to forced labor, torture, and executions. Meanwhile, North Korea's oppressive control over its citizens is maintained through fear and propaganda. The international community is left with limited options, as sanctions and diplomatic efforts have done little to halt the regime's dangerous trajectory. The instability in North Korea has the potential to spark broader conflict, making it one of the most dangerous countries in the world today. Syria. At number 5, we have Syria, a country still recovering from one of the most brutal and destructive civil wars in modern history. The conflict, which began in 2011, has resulted in over 500,000 deaths and millions more displaced. Despite the end of active fighting, Syria remains a country divided, with multiple factions, including the Assad regime, Kurdish forces, and various rebel groups, all vying for control. In 2025, Syria is still struggling with the aftermath of the war, including the continued use of chemical weapons, human rights violations, and an economy in ruins. The presence of foreign powers such as Russia and the US has further complicated the situation, turning Syria into a proxy battleground. The war may be officially over, but the devastation and instability it created continue to affect the lives of millions, making Syria one of the most dangerous countries in 2025. Democratic Republic of the Congo. At number 4, we have the Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC, a nation rich in natural resources but ravaged by conflict and corruption. In 2025, the DRC is embroiled in ongoing violence, particularly in the eastern provinces, where militias and armed groups fight for control of valuable mineral resources. The DRC's long-standing instability has created a humanitarian disaster, with millions living in displacement and extreme poverty. The situation in the DRC is complicated by political corruption, the exploitation of natural resources, and a complete lack of effective governance. The brutal conflict has claimed millions of lives, and despite efforts from the United Nations and international organizations, the situation remains dire. In 2025, the DRC remains a dangerous country where violence, exploitation, and poverty are pervasive. South Sudan. At number 3, we have South Sudan, a young nation that has been plagued by civil war, ethnic violence, and political corruption since gaining independence in 2011. In 2025, South Sudan remains in the grips of instability, with rival factions battling for control of the government and resources. The war has left the country in shambles, with millions displaced and countless lives lost. South Sudan's economy is crippled, and its infrastructure is virtually non-existent. The violence has exacerbated humanitarian conditions, with widespread famine and disease affecting the population. The United Nations has called South Sudan one of the world's most dangerous places to live, and despite peace agreements, the country continues to be engulfed in a cycle of violence and lawlessness. Iraq. At number 2, we have Iraq, a nation whose history is marked by decades of conflict and turmoil. Although Iraq has made progress since the fall of Saddam Hussein's regime, the country still faces significant challenges in 2025. Political instability, sectarian violence, and the resurgence of groups like ISIS continue to make Iraq one of the most dangerous places in the Middle East. In 2025, Iraq is struggling with a fragile government, ongoing terrorist attacks, and a disillusioned population. Despite efforts to rebuild, the threat of violence looms large, and the country remains a powder keg in a volatile region. Iraq's security situation is far from stable, and it remains one of the most dangerous countries to live in, with its future uncertain. Afghanistan. Finally, at number 1, we have Afghanistan, a country that has endured decades of war and instability. The Taliban's return to power has made Afghanistan a dangerous place for both its citizens and the wider world. In 2025, Afghanistan remains under Taliban rule, and the situation for civilians is grim. Human rights abuses are rampant, and the country's instability poses a threat to global security. The lack of a stable government, ongoing terrorist activity, and rampant poverty make Afghanistan the most dangerous country in the world today. As the world watches, the people of Afghanistan continue to endure unimaginable hardship with little hope for a brighter future. As we conclude our list of the top 10 most dangerous countries in 2025, it's important to remember that the world's challenges are far from solved. Global security, instability, and human suffering persist in these nations, and it's up to us to understand the deep deeper forces at play. While the situation in these countries may seem distant, their impact is felt worldwide. What happens in one corner of the world can send shockwaves across the globe. It's crucial to stay informed, raise awareness, and advocate for peace and human rights. The world can be a better place, but it requires action from each of us. What role will you play in shaping the future of our world? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more thought-provoking insights on the world around us.